Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
All right. Well, today we're going to tackle something pretty mind-blowing. Neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
I think most people have probably heard that term floating around out there.
Right.
But we're going to go way beyond the buzzwords today.
Absolutely.
We've got a stack of research, some wild stories about how our brains can actually rewire themselves throughout life.
That's really amazing.
Right. I mean, it challenges that old idea of,
Oh, it does.
okay, the brain is fixed after childhood.
Yeah.
Like, you're done, you get what you get.
Right.
But now we know
Nope.
the brain is constantly
Evolving.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the big picture.
Right.
But where do we even start with something this complex?
Well, I think a great place to start is with one of the pioneers.
Okay.
Paul Bacchiarita.
Okay, Bacchiarita.
He really sort of turned the field upside down with his work on sensory substitution.
Right. The guy who helped blind people see with their tongues. That's the one that always just blows my mind.
Right.
So what was he trying to prove with all that?
So his core idea was that the brain isn't limited to processing sensory information in just one way.
Okay.
If one pathway is blocked, it can learn to use another.
So it's more like the senses are more like tools that the brain can use flexibly.
Yes.
Not these fixed channels that we're stuck with.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And one of the most powerful examples of this is the story of Cheryl Schultz.
Oh, yeah. I remember reading about her.
Right.
She lost her sense of balance.
Completely.
Wasn't her vestibular system the part of the inner ear that controls balance? That was just totally gone.
Completely wiped out.
Wow.
Yeah, so imagine feeling like you're constantly falling.
Oh, my gosh.
She couldn't walk, stand, sit up without extreme dizziness.
It's like living in a nightmare.
A nightmare, yeah.
How did Bacchiarita even approach something like that?
Well, he built this device, almost like a hat, with a sensor that detected movement.
Okay.
The wild part.
Okay.
The signals from the sensor were sent to an array of electrodes.
Okay, where were the electrodes?
On her tongue.
On her tongue?
On her tongue.
What?
Yeah.
That just seems so random.
Right.
Why the tongue?
It was genius, though.
Okay.
Because as she moved her head, different areas of her tongue were stimulated.
I see.
Providing her brain with this new input for balance information.
So her tongue basically became a stand-in for her inner ear.
Exactly.
Whoa.
Right. At first, it was just tingling,
Right.
But her brain, being the amazing thing that it is, learned to decode those signals.
Right.
As balance information.
As balance information.
And the crazy part.
Okay, what?
After a while, she didn't even need the device anymore.
What?
Yeah, she could walk, stand, even dance again.
She could dance.
Yeah.
So her brain remapped its sense of balance to her tongue.
Yeah.
And then somehow transferred that back to a more normal way of functioning.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It's amazing.
It really highlights just how adaptive our brains can be.
It does.
Makes you think what other hidden abilities are in there, just kind of waiting to be unlocked.
It's fascinating to think about.
I mean, this unmasking of secondary pathways, is that what he called it?
Yeah, that's what he called it, unmasking of secondary pathways.
It has implications way beyond balance.
Right.
I mean, think about people who've lost their sight or hearing. There's potential there.
Absolutely.
To reroute those senses in ways that, I mean, we're just beginning to understand.
Oh, yeah.
Like retinal implants for the blind.
Yeah.
Maybe even sensory substitution devices for hearing loss.
Yeah.
It's a whole world of possibilities.
It really is.
Okay, so Bacchiarita blew my mind wide open.
But I know there are other pioneers in the field.
Yeah.
Who else should we be talking about?
Well, Barbara Arrowsmith Young took a bit of a different approach.
Okay.
She actually started by trying to fix her own learning disabilities.
Okay, now that's a deep dive I can relate to.
Right.
We've all struggled with learning certain things.
Yeah.
But what kind of issues was she dealing with?
Pretty severe, actually.
Okay.
She couldn't grasp grammar, struggled with math.
Okay.
Spatial disorientation.
Oh.
And she couldn't even tell left from right.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, imagine trying to navigate the world like that.
That's beyond frustrating.
Beyond frustrating, yeah.
So what was her breakthrough moment?
Well, she was reading.
Okay.
And she came across the work of Alexander Luria, a Russian neuropsychologist.
Okay.
And his patient, Lyova Zizetsky, who had a brain injury remarkably similar to Barbara's.
So she was seeing herself in this soldier's struggles.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Luria very carefully documented Zizitsky's efforts to regain his cognitive functions.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like she was reading her own story.
Wow. Yeah.
She realized that targeted mental exercises could actually strengthen weak areas of the brain.
So she basically hacked her own brain.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she created her own exercises.
Wow.
Drawing from Luria's observations.
Wow.
And they worked.
They worked.
They worked.
That's incredible.
Yeah, she saw improvement in her own abilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this led her to the Aerosmith School, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
She founded the school to help others who were facing similar challenges.
Right.
It's all about targeted brain exercises.
Okay.
Designed to strengthen specific cognitive functions.
So if I'm getting this right, it's not just about studying harder or practicing more. It's about understanding your specific brain weaknesses and targeting them with the right kind of mental workout.
Yeah, you got it. And the results have been really impressive.
Yeah.
Students at the Aerosmith School show significant gains in areas they previously struggled with.
This is such an important message for anyone who's ever felt like they just can't learn certain things.
Right.
It's not about inherent ability.
Right.
It's about finding the right approach to train your brain.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another crucial point.
Okay.
If targeted exercises can remediate learning difficulties, imagine what they could do for those of us who want to sharpen our existing skills or learn new ones.
Exactly.
So we're not just talking about fixing deficits. We're talking about enhancing potential across the board.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
It's exciting. It gets even bigger when we bring in Michael Mersenich.
Okay, Mersenich,
a neuroscientist who really took brain mapping and plasticity to a whole new level.
Okay, hit me with it.
Well, for starters, he played a key role in developing cochlear implants for deaf children.
Right, allowing children to hear who otherwise couldn't. That's using neuroplasticity to rewrite someone's life.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
It really is.
So how did he do that?
He applied his deep understanding of how the brain processes sound to design an implant that could effectively transmit those signals.
So he took brain plasticity out of the theoretical realm and built a technology that directly leverages it.
You got it.
Wow, that's impressive.
And his work didn't stop there.
Okay.
One of his most famous experiments involved mapping the brain of a monkey.
Okay.
Before and after amputating one of his fingers.
Whoa, that's intense.
Yeah.
What does that reveal?
It showed that the brain isn't static.
Okay.
The area of the brain map dedicated to the amputated finger.
Right.
It didn't just sit there empty.
Right.
It was taken over by the adjacent fingers.
The brain reorganized itself.
Yes.
In response to the loss.
Yes, precisely.
Wow.
He called this competitive plasticity.
Competitive plasticity.
Meaning that different parts of the brain are constantly competing for resources.
Okay.
The more you use a particular neural pathway, the stronger it gets.
So it's like a use it or lose it principle for the brain.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. And this has huge implications.
It does.
I mean, for learning skill development, it means we're not stuck with our current abilities.
No.
We can actually rewire our brains.
Absolutely.
By engaging in activities that challenge us, that push us beyond our comfort zones.
You got it.
This is all starting to make sense. It's like our brains are constantly adapting to the demands we place on them.
They are.
So if we want to get better at something, we need to consistently challenge ourselves. Push those neural pathways to grow.
Exactly. And Mersenich took this concept and ran with it.
Okay, what did he do?
He developed Fast Forward.
Fast Forward.
Which is a brain training program.
Okay.
Designed to help children with language impairments.
So he's taking these same principles of brain plasticity and applying them to real-world problems.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
So does it work?
It does.
It does?
Yeah. Studies have shown really impressive improvement in language skills, attention, even handwriting.
Wow.
In children who use the program.
That's incredible. So we're not just talking about improving one specific skill, but creating these ripple effects across the brain.
That's the amazing thing about neuroplasticity.
Okay.
When you stimulate change in one area,
Yeah.
You often see positive changes in other areas as well.
That's amazing.
It is.
Okay, my brain is officially blown.
Good.
I'm starting to see just how powerful neuroplasticity really is.
Yeah.
But I'm also starting to wonder,
okay,
if our brains are so malleable, what are the downsides?
that's a great question.
Yeah. Is there a dark side to all this rewiring?
Well, that's one that researchers are grappling with.
Okay.
Mercenick's research also shed light
Okay.
on the idea of critical periods.
Critical periods.
In brain development.
Okay.
And how disruptions
right.
in these periods might be linked to conditions like autism.
Okay, now I need a little bit of a refresher.
Right.
What are critical periods again?
Think of them as windows of time.
Okay.
When the brain is primed for learning certain skills,
right.
like language,
right.
if those windows close prematurely,
okay.
it can have a lasting impact on development.
So are you saying that autism might be related?
Well, that's one of the theories that Mercenick proposed.
Okay.
That in children with autism, the brain might not have enough time to fully develop those differentiated brain maps.
I see.
Leading to a range of challenges.
So this is all getting pretty deep, but I'm totally hooked. It's like we're starting to see the brain.
Yeah.
Not just as this static organ, but as this incredibly dynamic system that's constantly being shaped by our genes and our experiences.
It is.
Wow. Okay, so we've talked about rewiring the senses, targeting learning difficulties, and even the potential downsides of neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
But I know there are more stories to tell.
Oh, yeah.
Where do we go from here?
Well, let's shift gears a bit and talk about stroke recovery.
Okay, stroke recovery.
Edward Taub, a researcher who developed constraint-induced therapy.
Constraint-induced therapy.
Or CI therapy.
CI therapy.
Made some amazing discoveries in this area.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay, so
nice story there.
It all starts with this phenomenon called learned non-nous.
Learned non-nous, okay.
Which often happens after a stroke.
Okay.
Basically, even if a stroke patient has some residual function in a limb, they tend to favor their unaffected side.
Right, right.
Over time, that lack of use can actually worsen
the
affected limb's condition.
So it's like their brain is learning to ignore the weaker limb.
Exactly.
Interesting.
CI therapy comes in to disrupt that pattern.
Okay.
It's actually pretty simple in concept.
Okay.
You can strain the good limb, usually with a mitt or sling, and force the patient to use the affected one.
Wait, so you're basically forcing the brain to rewire itself.
You got it.
By taking away the easier option.
Exactly.
This is a bit tough.
It can be challenging, yes.
Yeah.
But the results can be incredible.
Yeah.
Taub's research shows that CI therapy can significantly improve movement and function.
Wow.
Even years after a stroke.
So it's like the brain is being pushed to find new pathways.
It is.
Reactivate those dormant connections.
Exactly.
Wow, this is giving me so much hope for people facing these kinds of challenges. Yeah. It's like as long as you keep pushing, there's always a chance for the brain to find a new way.
There is.
Are there other examples of this kind of remarkable recovery?
There are. One that really stands out is the story of Frederick Lincoln.
Frederick Lincoln.
A child with cerebral palsy.
Okay.
Who through CI therapy learned to use a hand.
Wow.
That was thought to be paralyzed.
A child.
Wow.
A child.
So even a developing brain can be retrained in such a profound way.
That's the incredible thing about neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
It's not limited to a certain age or developmental stage. Of course, generally it's more pronounced in the younger years.
Right.
But the potential for change remains throughout life.
This is blowing my mind.
It is pretty amazing.
I'm starting to see how much potential there is for harnessing this power of the brain to heal and overcome these challenges.
Absolutely. Right. And it's not just about physical recovery.
Okay.
Jeffrey Schwartz, a psychiatrist, has shown how neuroplasticity can be used to address mental health conditions.
Okay.
Like OCD. Okay, that one's a bit harder for me to wrap my head around.
Okay.
How does rewiring the brain apply to something like OCD?
Well, Schwartz focused on what he called a brain lock.
A brain lock?
A malfunction in the caudate nucleus.
The caudate nucleus, okay.
A part of the brain that filters out unnecessary thoughts and impulses in people with OCD. This filtering process gets stuck.
Okay.
Leading to those obsessive thoughts and compulsive behaviors.
So it's like their brain is stuck in a loop.
Exactly.
And they can't break free.
Right. Schwartz developed a 4-step method
Okay.
that basically rewires the brain to break out of that loop.
Okay, I'm all ears. Give me the steps.
All right, so the first step is relabeling.
Relabeling.
Which involves recognizing that those obsessive thoughts are just false alarms from the brain.
Right.
Not accurate reflections of reality.
So it's about becoming aware of those thought patterns and detaching from them.
Exactly.
Right.
Then comes reattributing.
Reattributing, okay.
Where you understand that the urge to perform compulsions isn't because you're weak or flawed.
Right.
It's a result of this brain malfunction.
So you're shifting the blame, so to speak, from yourself to this glitching brain circuit.
It's about reframing.
Okay.
The way you perceive those urges.
Right.
Then comes refocusing.
Refocusing.
Where you actively shift your attention
Okay.
to a more pleasurable activity.
Great.
Instead of giving in to the compulsion.
So it's like redirecting that energy.
Exactly. Okay. And the final step is revaluing.
Revaluing.
Where you recognize that the obsessive thoughts and compulsions are meaningless and don't deserve your attention.
Okay, so basically you're training your brain to recognize these patterns, detach from them, and choose a different path.
You got it.
That's pretty powerful stuff.
It is.
So the key is consistency.
Consistency is key, yes.
Okay.
By practicing these steps over and over, you're literally rewiring those neural pathways. And weakening the grip of OCD.
So it's like mental exercise for the brain.
Yes.
But instead of building muscles, you're building resilience and control.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about retraining your brain to respond differently to those intrusive thoughts and urges.
This is such a hopeful message for people struggling with OCD. It's like, even though the brain might be wired in a way that creates these challenges, it also has the power to rewire itself.
It does.
And find a new way of being.
Absolutely. And it's not just about OCD.
Right.
Schwartz's work has broader implications for how we approach mental health in general.
Right.
It suggests that we can actively train our brains to be more resilient, more balanced, more in control of our thoughts and emotions.
Okay, my mind is officially blown wide open.
Okay, good.
This whole idea of consciously rewiring the brain.
Yeah.
Pretty powerful stuff.
It is powerful.
What other mind-bending examples do we have?
Well, V.S. Ramachandran.
Ramachandran.
A neurologist famous for his work on phantom limbs.
Phantom limbs. Okay, now we're getting into spooky territory.
Right.
Tell me more.
It's a phenomena where amputees still feel sensations.
Okay.
Often painful ones.
Right.
In the limb that's no longer there.
So it's like the brain is holding on to a memory of the limb?
It's more than just a memory.
Okay.
The brain's body map, the representation of our physical selves, is incredibly persistent.
Okay.
Even when a limb is gone, that part of the map can remain active, causing those real sensations, even pain.
Okay. That's both fascinating and a bit creepy.
It is. It is.
How did Ramachandran approach this?
Well, he came up with this ingenious therapy called mirror box therapy.
A mirror box therapy.
And it's incredibly simple.
Okay.
You put the intact limb in a box with a mirror.
Okay.
And the patient moves it.
Right.
Creating this visual illusion that the phantom limb is also moving.
So you're tricking the brain into thinking the missing limb is back.
Exactly.
Wow.
And for many patients, this visual feedback helps to rewire the brain's perception of the body, relieving that phantom pain.
Wait, so by changing what the brain sees, you can change how it feels.
You can.
That's amazing.
It really highlights the interconnectedness of our senses and how they influence our brain's internal map.
Of our body.
Of our body, yeah. What's even more interesting is that Ramachandran believes this extends beyond phantom limbs to pain perception in general.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this pain as perception idea.
So Ramachandran argues that pain isn't just a simple reflex to injury.
Right.
It's a complex opinion that the brain forms based on multiple factors. Emotions, expectations, past experiences all play a role.
So pain is more subjective than we think.
Much more.
It's not just a signal that something is wrong. It's the brain interpreting that signal.
Yes.
Through all these filters.
Through all these filters, exactly.
This is really making me rethink everything I thought I knew about pain.
Good.
It's like our brains are constantly constructing our reality, not just passively reflecting it.
You got it.
Wow.
Ramachandran's work is just one example of how researchers are using neuroplasticity to challenge our assumptions about how our brains work.
Okay, so we've gone from rewiring senses to retraining movement. to reinterpreting pain.
We have.
My brain is definitely feeling the burn.
Good.
Where do we even go from here?
Well, it gets even more mind-bending.
Okay.
When we delve into the work of Alvaro Pasqualeone.
Pasqualeone?
Who used transcranial magnetic stimulation.
Transcranial magnetic stimulation. Okay.
Or TMS.
Very nice.
To explore the power of mental practice.
TMS, I've heard of that. I don't really get it. What is it exactly?
So it's this non-invasive technique.
Okay.
That uses magnetic pulses to stimulate or inhibit specific brain regions.
So you can basically zap the brain from outside the skull.
That's a good way to put it.
Sounds a bit sci-fi.
It does sound a bit sci-fi.
Yeah.
But it's a safe and increasingly common tool in neuroscience research.
Okay.
What's fascinating is that Pasqualeone used TMS to show that imagining playing the piano produced similar brain changes as actually practicing.
Wait, just thinking about playing the piano?
Thinking about it.
Can rewire the brain.
It can.
Right.
Yeah, nice. Mental practice or visualization is far more powerful than we realize.
So our thoughts can literally change the physical structure of our brains.
Yes.
That's kind of mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing.
Okay, I'm totally on board with this mental practice thing. Are there any real-world examples of this power in action?
Absolutely. Take Natan Sharansky.
Natan Sharansky.
He was a political prisoner who used mental chess practice to maintain his skills while in solitary confinement.
Whoa, so even under those incredibly challenging circumstances, his brain was able to adapt and stay sharp.
He did it.
That's an incredible story.
It is.
It makes you realize the power of the mind to shape its own reality, even when the external world is incredibly limited.
Exactly.
And this idea of the mind shaping reality takes on a whole new dimension.
It does.
When we look at the work of Miguel Nicolelis, a pioneer in the field of brain-machine interfaces.
That's right.
Brain-machine interfaces, okay, now we're talking straight-up science fiction.
I know, right?
What is he up to?
Well, so Nicolelis and his team have developed this technology that allows individuals to control devices with their minds, bypassing damaged nerves or even missing limbs.
So we're talking thought-controlled prosthetics, mind-reading computers, that kind of thing.
You're getting it.
Whoa.
They started with experiments where rats learned to control a water dispenser. Just by thinking about it.
Wait, so the rats were basically telekinetic?
In a way, yes.
What?
By decoding the rat's neural activity, they were able to link specific thought patterns to the action of the water dispenser.
So it's not just about rewiring the brain itself.
Right.
It's about connecting the brain to external devices.
Exactly.
That is so wild.
It is pretty wild.
Okay, so where did they go from there?
Well, then they moved on to monkeys.
Monkeys?
Training them to control robotic arms with their minds.
Okay, now I'm seeing images of monkeys piloting giant robots. This is getting seriously futuristic.
It does sound pretty sci-fi.
Yeah.
But the implications for people with paralysis or limb loss are huge.
Huge, yeah.
Imagine regaining the ability to move and interact with the world just by thinking about it.
That would be life-changing.
It would.
So where is this technology headed?
Well, Nicolelis and his team have already begun testing these interfaces in humans.
Wow, really?
With some promising results.
That's amazing.
It's still early days, but the potential is there to revolutionize how we think about disability and human capability.
This is incredible. We've gone from simple exercises to high-tech brain interfaces.
Ooh, yeah.
It's amazing to see how far the field of neuroplasticity has come.
It's come a long way.
But I'm also feeling a little overwhelmed by all this information.
I understand. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
We're only scratching the surface.
So where do we even begin to make sense of all this?
Yeah.
How do we connect the dots between all these amazing discoveries?
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
And it leads us to a surprising connection between a very old approach to understanding the mind and this cutting-edge science. The link between psychoanalysis and neuroplasticity.
Psychoanalysis. That's like Freud and talking cures, right?
Right.
How does that tie into all this brain rewiring we've been discussing?
It might seem like a strange pairing.
Yeah.
But bear with me.
Okay.
Psychoanalysis, with its focus on uncovering unconscious thoughts and feelings, can actually be seen as a form of neuroplastic therapy.
Okay. You're going to have to explain this one.
Okay.
How can talking about your problems change your brain?
Well, think about it.
Okay.
Through deep introspection.
Right.
And the exploration of past experiences, psychoanalysis can help you identify and change ingrained patterns of thought and behavior that might be causing you distress.
Okay.
Right.
So by becoming aware of those patterns and working through them, you're actually changing the way your brain works.
You are.
Really?
And this isn't just a theoretical idea.
Okay.
Eric Kandel, a Nobel Prize-winning neuroscientist, who actually started his career as a psychoanalyst, provided the biological evidence.
He bridged the gap between talk therapy and brain science.
He did.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, through his research on sea slugs.
Sea slugs.
He demonstrated that learning and memory lead to physical changes in the connections between neurons, a process known as synaptic plasticity.
So even simple creatures like sea slugs can rewire their brains through learning.
That's what his research shows.
Wow.
And if that's true for sea slugs, it's certainly true for the far more complex human brain.
So what Kandel is saying is that therapy, by helping us learn new ways of thinking and behaving, can actually rewire those synaptic connections in our brain.
That's the idea.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's about harnessing the power of neuroplasticity to break free from those negative patterns and create healthier, more adaptive ways of being.
This is mind-blowing.
It is.
It's like therapy is a form of mental workout.
I like that analogy.
Yeah. Strengthening those neural pathways that lead to positive change.
Exactly. And it highlights
how
interconnected our minds and bodies really are.
Right.
What we do with our minds, how we think and feel, has a profound impact on our physical brains.
Okay, so we've gone from rewiring the senses to retraining movement, reinterpreting pain, to talking our way to a better brain.
We have.
What other amazing discoveries are waiting to be unlocked?
Well, one of the most exciting areas of research is neurogenesis.
Neurogenesis?
The brain's ability to generate new neurons.
Wait, new brain cells?
New brain cells.
I always heard that we're born with all the brain cells we'll ever have.
That was the old dogma.
Okay.
But we now know that that's not true.
Okay.
Certain parts of the brain, like the hippocampus, which is involved in learning and memory, can actually generate new neurons, even in adulthood.
So our brains can literally grow new brain cells.
They can.
That's incredible.
It is.
Does this mean we can prevent or reverse age-related cognitive decline?
It's not that simple.
Okay.
But the research is promising.
Okay.
We know that things like exercise, mental stimulation, and a healthy lifestyle can promote neurogenesis. And protect against those age-related changes.
So it's not just about preserving the brain cells we have. It's about encouraging the growth of new ones.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
And this has huge implications for how we approach aging. And the potential for maintaining that cognitive vitality well into our later years.
This is such good news.
It is good news.
I'm starting to see that aging doesn't have to be this inevitable decline.
It doesn't.
We have more control over our brain health than we realize.
We do.
Okay, so we've got exercise, mental stimulation, a healthy lifestyle, all good things. But what about the limits of neuroplasticity? Are there cases where the brain's ability to adapt just isn't enough?
That's a really important question. And while neuroplasticity is powerful, it's not a magic bullet. There are limits. And we need to understand those limits to appreciate both the power and the complexity of the brain.
All right, I'm ready to dive into the complexities. What kind of limits are we talking about?
Well, let's look at the fascinating case of Michelle. A woman born with only one brain hemisphere.
One brain hemisphere.
It's a rare condition called hemispherectomy.
Hemispherectomy.
Which can happen due to various factors during fetal development.
One brain hemisphere. That's hard to even imagine. How does someone even function with half a brain?
It's remarkable.
Yeah.
Michelle has developed extraordinary abilities in certain areas, but she also faces these unique challenges.
So her brain has found ways to compensate for the missing hemisphere.
It has.
Wow.
Michelle's remaining hemisphere has taken on some of the functions that would normally be handled by the missing half. It's a testament to the brain's incredible ability to adapt.
That's incredible. What kind of extraordinary abilities has she developed?
Well, Michelle has this amazing memory for dates and events.
Okay.
Almost like a human calendar.
Wow.
She also has a form of synesthesia.
Synesthesia.
Where she experiences numbers.
Right.
And days of the week as having distinct colors.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like her brain has rewired itself to create these unique abilities.
It has.
But you said she also faces challenges.
Yes, she does.
Okay.
Despite those strengths, Michelle struggles with abstract thinking.
Okay.
Understanding complex relationships and controlling her impulses.
Right.
These challenges highlight the fact that even with remarkable plasticity, there are limits to what the brain can achieve when faced with such significant structural differences.
So it's like her brain has made these remarkable adaptations, but there are trade-offs.
Exactly. Right. It shows that while neuroplasticity is powerful, it's not a magical solution that can overcome every obstacle.
Right.
It's this delicate dance between the brain's potential and the constraints of its biology.
This is a great reminder.
It is.
That we need to approach this field with both optimism and realism.
Right.
There's so much potential
there is
for healing and growth, but we also need to be aware of the limits.
We do.
Proceed with caution.
Absolutely. And Michelle's case highlights the need for personalized approaches to brain health.
Right.
What works for one person might not work for another.
Right.
And we need to be mindful of those individual differences.
So it's not just about applying these discoveries broadly.
Right.
It's about tailoring them
to
the individual's unique brain.
Exactly. And that's where the field is headed.
Okay.
We're moving towards more personalized approaches to brain health.
Okay.
Taking into account genetic factors, individual experiences, and the specific challenges each person faces.
This is all so fascinating.
It is fascinating.
It feels like we're just scratching the surface
We are.
of what we can do with this knowledge.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here?
One area that's ripe for exploration
Okay.
is the impact of culture and technology on brain development.
Culture and technology, that seems like a big leap from rewiring the brain after a stroke.
It might seem like a detour, but it's all connected.
Okay.
Our brains are constantly being shaped by the cultural activities we engage in and the technologies we use.
So it's not just about individual experiences. It's about the larger context we're embedded in.
Exactly.
Okay.
Think about the Sea Gypsies, for example.
The Sea Gypsies?
This nomadic people group who live in Southeast Asia have developed an extraordinary ability to see clearly underwater.
Wait, they can see underwater?
They can.
Isn't that, like, impossible for humans?
You'd think so.
Yeah.
But they've trained their brains to constrict their pupils, allowing them to see more sharply in the water.
Wow.
And researchers have actually been able to teach other people, including children, to do the same.
So it's a learned ability.
It is.
Not some genetic quirk.
Exactly. It's a testament to the power of culture and experience to shape even those basic sensory functions.
Okay. That is wild.
It is wild.
What about technology?
Okay.
How has that impacted our brains?
Well, consider activities like reading.
Okay, so we've established that our brains are constantly being shaped by our experiences, both on an individual level and a cultural level.
Yes.
But where does that leave us?
Right.
What's the big picture here?
Well, I think it points to something pretty profound.
Go ahead.
You know, we're not just products of our genes.
Right.
We're also products of our environments, our cultures, the technologies we use.
Right.
It's this dynamic interplay that makes us who we are.
So it's like nature and nurture are constantly pushing and pulling on our brains, shaping who we become.
And neuroplasticity is the mechanism that allows this shaping to happen.
Right.
It's what makes us so adaptable as a species.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it also raises a ton of questions.
It does.
If our environments are so influential, how do we make sure they're shaping us in positive ways?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it's one that researchers, educators, policymakers, even tech developers are grappling with.
So it's not just a scientific question.
Well,
it's a societal one.
It is, absolutely.
We need to be thinking about how to design environments, both physical and digital, that nurture brain health and promote well-being.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all ties together.
Good.
We've gone from these fascinating stories about individual brain transformations to this much broader conversation about how our culture and technology are impacting our brains on a societal level.
It's all connected.
Right.
And it highlights the importance of understanding neuroplasticity.
Okay.
Not just as a scientific concept, but as this lens through which we can view the human experience in a new light.
This deep dive has been a wild ride.
It has.
I'm walking away with a whole new appreciation for the complexity and adaptability of the human brain.
Yeah.
But I'm also left with a sense of responsibility.
Right.
If we have this power to shape our own brains and to influence the brains of others, how do we use that power wisely?
That's the crucial question.
Yeah.
And it's one that doesn't have easy answers.
Right.
But by understanding the principles of neuroplasticity, by being mindful of the choices we make, the environments we create, the technologies we embrace, we can start to move in the right direction.
This has been an incredibly thought-provoking conversation.
It has been.
Thank you for sharing your expertise.
My pleasure.
And for helping us navigate this complex and fascinating world of neuroplasticity.
Glad to be here.
This has been The Deep Dive. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.